Hi, I'm Kevin, and today I've been out testing the latest luscious little Latino from legendary style house MV Agusta. Now, it's not all about dashing good looks, the MVs that is. Although it's one of the prettiest bikes to ever run off a production line, this thing, the MV Agusta F3, is also full of really cool innovations. Let's run through it. Starting at the pointy end, slowing the MV Agusta F3 down, are a pair of 320mm discs. Now, they're gripped by Brembo calipers, which is always good news. They're not the monoblock variety in this case, but their stopping power is still pretty awesome. Also on the front are a pair of 43mm USD or inverted forks. Now, they're fully adjustable, so you've got compression, rebound and preload adjustment. So you've got a package that you can tweak, you can play with, you can dial in to your heart's content. This thing is designed to be ridden quickly. Now, in true Italian tradition, these indicator holders here, aka the mirrors, aren't overly functional. They're not as bad as some, but they're definitely not as good as the average. The screen, it's nice, it's stylish. The first thing you notice when you jump on this bike is it's physically very small and it's very narrow through the middle, so it feels like a littler bike than a 675. To get your head behind that screen, you're going to have to be built like Mr. Biaggi himself. For me, just under 6 foot, there's no way I'm going to get behind there, but it does deflect all the force off and it's a fun bike to ride. Now, the gorgeous lines of the F3 are not there purely to look good parked outside the cafe. The super sculpted tank is nice for keying your knees into. It's plastic, so you're not going to be able to attach some magnetic touring luggage. If you want to do that, get a tourer. This is a super sports bike, it's a purebred, and that's all it wants to do. Now, attached to those cast alloy clip-ons, apart from your throttle, clutch and brake as you'd expect, this is one of the first super sport class bikes to come out with different maps. So you've got a track map, sports, and one for getting home gently in the rain. It also has traction control. You've got 8 levels, so you can dial in the map that you want, depending on how aggressive you're feeling, and you can dial in a safety net as well. And with something that's putting out 120 odd horsepower like this, it's probably not a bad idea. Now, the MV has its gearbox stuck way up high at the back here, cassette style gearbox. What they've done is make a super compact little unit, allowing them to have a nice short sporty handling bike. This thing's razor sharp at the handling. What they've also done is the crankcase and the barrels are all one piece, so they've missed one of the joins. This allows them to put more stress on that part of the unit. It's putting out 126 horsepower at 14,400 RPM. The electronic limiter calls end to play basically at 15,000, but by then you've passed the peak. It just gives you a bit of over rev if you don't want to snatch another gear before that corner. Now, MV have made it easy for you guys that aren't so familiar with their brand. If you're wondering how many cylinders it's got, check out those sexy little pipes. The F3 is all about being a triple. It's got the mid-range you expect from a triple. It's got a hammer of a top end. It doesn't really have much in the way of bottom end, and it's got a tall first gear, so it's not a city slicker. This thing is for open road, twisty road, anything other than muddling through town. As for seating arrangements, it's about the size of my palm if you're a pillion. It's not huge. That being said, the ergonomics aren't that bad. My daughter Cassandra sat on the back and she said despite it having a bicycle seat for a pillion, the rest of it works surprisingly well for a sports bike. The rider seat, it's a little bit better. It's nice and wide through the rear section, but what this bike does, and it makes it feel so small, is it's only that wide through the middle. So getting on and off if you've got shorter legs is fine. So even if you've got shorter legs, you can ride one of these. And at the back end of the motorcycle, you've got the single-sided swing arm, which lets you see these lovely wheels. You can see the whole braking setup. It's undisputably the style king of its class. On the road, it's not the smoothest. It's a little bit less refined than some. It's quite cramped. It charms you with the fact that it's not quite civilized. It's a little bit angry. It's got its own attitude. It's phenomenally fast, superb handling, and at $22,500 plus on-road costs, it'd have to be something you'd consider seriously if you're looking at a super sport bike. Now the MV Agusta F3 comes standard with the electronic quick shifter. Once you get used to these things, they're an absolute pleasure to use, and you get very, very used to them very quickly. What it does is as you put that little bit of upward pressure on the gear shifter, it momentarily kills the ignition, firing it through to the next gear, and if you're doing it with a little bit of anger, it gives this lovely little pop as the unburnt fuels go into the pipe and get roasted. On the track, they probably save you fractions of a second. On the road, they just sound uber cool. Now the foot pegs are one place where I wish the designers were left out of the room and it was left up to the engineers. The pillion's one has got this little sphere on the end. It's smooth, it's a bit slippery, makes it a little bit difficult to keep your feet on the pegs, particularly when it's damp. And the same really goes for those riders' pegs. I'd like something more aggressive to grip my boot. I'd rather have a little bit of a bark on the sole of my boot than to slip off in the wet. There are accessory pegs which do exactly that. They look nice, but it's one place where I would change things pretty much straight away.